Welcome to the interview today. Today I've got the one and only Bob Doyle on the show, and today's training, coaching session, podcast interview is all about literally changing the structure of your brain so you can let go of the limiting beliefs, patterns, behaviors that have been holding you back, dooming your efforts. If you've personally been in a space like I have, like Bob has for well over 30 years, you tried a bunch of things. Many things, many programs, many kind of tricks and tips, but that you always feel there's something holding you back. There's something you haven't yet figured out. And hopefully this training is going to unveil, well, that's the right word, what that piece is and give you some inspiration, some hope. Because Bob, I want to start this off with a bang, because some of the testimonials, the case studies you get on what looks like a near daily basis is truly incredible. So just so the viewers know, they're not wasting their time here. Just fire off, give us kind of maybe one or two of those keystone success stories. Basically.
Well, I think one of the things that most surprising to me about this is because it's a rewiring process that we're doing, and rewiring just in its nature takes some time, but the results that people are having with changing their behavior and thus starting the rewiring process are happening so quickly. Things that normally would take, I would see in my experience teaching basic law of attraction type approaches to transformation, for example, would take much longer to manifest themselves. We have people who within a couple of weeks of working with me in this environment and this approach have quit smoking after a lifetime of quitting smoking. They didn't come in to quit smoking. This is just something they identified as a behavior that they've got to stop if they're going to get to the next level. Same thing with alcohol. We've got people who have just eliminated alcohol because they're so clear on how it is stopping them. We've got people taking on weight loss. Again, none of these people came in here with these particular goals. They came in to learn how to transform, and they learned in the process what needed to happen for themselves to be able to become that person they want to be. We've got another guy who's got this amazing reach on social media, but his stop in terms of like monetizing it was just sort of this, it was just who he was being about it. Like he needed to step up to this sort of future version of himself. And once he started doing that by doing this process every day, working with gratitude, acknowledging and stopping his automatic behaviors, he's created this mindset and this way of being that is now attractive to sponsors. And he now has the boldness to go out there and ask for what he wants. So the transformations are both personal and professional, and they run a huge gamut of profound life-changing results, like getting started with transformation by eliminating addictive behaviors. I mean, what a great way to start.
That's a big point, actually. That reminds me of like the little checklist I saw of like identifying autopilot behavior, like was it changing behavior? Like I don't remember the third one, but I remember you had that kind of list of just a simple overview breakdown.
Absolutely. So basically, this process of rewiring ourselves and changing our behavior involves basically three different steps. And one is noticing that autopilot behavior, like when do we kick into our wiring? That's the very first sort of skill set that I teach people. And when you learn to do that, that's why the results come so quick. Then when you catch that old behavior, the second step is to choose a new behavior. And we talk about various ways to know what that behavior is in the moment. And then then you make that choice, and then the second part of that, the third step in this, is to be that behavior. In other words, it's one thing to acknowledge I could make a choice here, I could be different in this situation, but to actually step into the action of being it, that's the third choice and what actually gets the change taking place.
Got it. I mean, easier said than done, right? So we're going to unpack these little steps in the whole training session. So it may sound simple, but I mean, a lot of these people walking around are totally unaware of the first step, their autopilot behaviors. So, I mean, if someone's unaware, like how can they possibly change it? So I'm going to give you a few little tips on how to go about that process. And that's just like the cream of the crop. There's a lot of bonuses coming your way, a lot of gifts. There's a little assessment tool, which is how I found Bob personally. His kind of TPT quiz will explain what that means. I mean, there's like over like $2,855 in bonuses and gifts for just simply sticking around and participating. So pretty incredible stuff. Firstly, I forgot to kind of cover, because this is on a lot of viewers' minds, and is on my mind whenever I come across a new kind of guru or mentor or coach online. There's a lot of them in this personal space. So Bob, I want to put you a little bit on the spot here and ask you, what is it that makes you unique?
one of the things about my approach to this is that I never in my life, that was never a career goal to get into personal development. This was not anything that was on my aspiration of things to do. I had a completely different career track. So my approach to personal development is different than a lot of the other people in the industry. And I think that it comes from, number one, I want to get things done quickly and efficiently. I have no desire to draw out teaching people how to transform, because I want to be living the life that, I want to be implementing these principles myself too. My passion for this work is that I feel like I have found very efficient ways to facilitate transformation. And for years, it was the law of attraction. That to me at the time seemed the most efficient way for a person to take proactive control over their experience of reality. But when I learned about neuroplasticity, and our ability to change our brain, which is really kind of a given. We should all know that our brains change because we learn new things all the time. But in the context of personal transformation, I saw this as a super fast way to be able to facilitate transformation without all the slowdowns of trying to figure out how the law of attraction works, because that happened after The Secret. There were so many people with different techniques and different approaches, and it just got confused. And I feel like for a while I was kind of a part of that process of just more information than transformation. And so now I'm really committed to just giving enough information, just the information you need to be able to move into action with your transformation and not get inundated with a bunch of facts and statistics and a bunch of stuff that is nice to know, but it doesn't facilitate your transformation. I think that's probably one of my unique characteristics.
Yeah, for sure. Even I noticed right away, there's courses that have information, just a whole lot of information, which honestly people don't need. That's why YouTube exists, Google exists. But if information alone, like you've heard me say, if it was enough, then we will be rich. We'll be driving nice cars, having houses, walking around with six packs and slim bellies, whatever. But information alone doesn't get the job done. And I actually noticed that of your program, you kind of have the education piece, but then you also focus heavily on the experience, which is I think the biggest shift compared to anything else I've seen out there. So why do you kind of take this approach of focusing more on the experience more than anything?
Yeah, because again, 20 years of teaching law of attraction concepts, and I thought I just know all this stuff. I can approach it in a billion different ways, and then there's all these other people who know a lot about the law of attraction, but they can't implement change. They can't create change. They're not moving into the action they need to move into to be able to attract the results that they want. So, oh crap, I'm sorry. I forgot what the question was. I got off track.
It was basically kind of why do you choose the experience over? Because I kind of remember seeing.
Experience.
So just kind of maybe, don't worry, I'll clean it.
Yeah, I got it. So just having a bunch of information just fills people's heads, but they don't know what to necessarily do with it. So whenever I'm coaching anybody, whenever I'm training anybody, it is about moving them into action as quickly as possible. This work that I'm doing now, changing your brain, is about transforming who you're being by changing your wiring, and that only comes through action. You can start the process with your imagination, but then you need to move, you need to be, you need to get the results in the world so you can get the feedback so that the new neural pathways that you're building with this new behavior actually stick and become permanent and not just some temporary boost of neurotransmitters that makes a lot of people think, oh, I've transformed because look how good I feel right now. But then that all burns off. And then your old wiring kicks in because you're not really doing, you're not being, you're not acting in a consistent enough way to be able to make the changes stop. So that's why everything I do is experiential as soon as possible. Just enough information up here so that people can go, yes, I understand why this will absolutely work for me. And that's all I need to know. Now I'm just going to go about doing what I need to do to make those changes.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes total sense. Just looking at some of the questions coming in. So guys, some of you excited, of course. At the end of this interview and training, we are actually doing kind of live Q&A session. So post your questions now. If they come up, just hit the comment box, put your question down, and I'll see them later. But I'm already seeing a few main categories just kind of sticking out. So we'll dive into them first, as well as some of the questions people have sent us in advance. First, I want to cover this because I did mention the whole kind of TPT thing, the assessment tool, the quiz, which is how I kind of discovered you as well. Let's talk about that because I think that's incredibly valuable for anyone who's still thinking like, oh, where is my starting point? Okay, this is cool, but how would I go about this? How would I kind of discover more about myself to then find those actions that I need to do. So what is the TPT thing, Bob?
So in reality, I don't think most people even think as far as you did. They don't know. They don't even think about what's my starting point. They're not thinking about this at all, because when we're wired, everything is just how it is. Most people are not analyzing how all of this is working. So they don't recognize that they're on autopilot. They don't recognize that there are patterns of behavior that they do that consistently stop them in their transformation endeavors. So there are, in 20 years of coaching people and speaking and meeting all kinds of people and hearing tons and tons of stories, I just sort of realized that there are kind of 4 different types of people who undertake transformation. And look, not everybody undertakes transformation. I mean, if you're taking on transformation, you're already an elite percentage of the population. Mm-hmm. Most people don't even know you can change yourself. So understanding where your starting point is with your wiring, specifically because this work is about changing your wiring and changing behavior. If you know how your autopilot wiring is functioning, then you can become aware of it. That's when you have the freedom to choose. We talked about the second step, to choose a new behavior. Well, first we have to be able to recognize that behavior is there, so that then we can make that other choice. So the transformation personality type quiz takes like 60 seconds, but at the end of it, it's like looking in a mirror. A personal development mirror, because you will say, yep, that's exactly what I do at exactly that time in my transformation, and I absolutely stop. So we don't just tell you where you're at, because you'll nod your head and go, wow, they got me. Then here's what you can do about that. With this knowledge, how is that going to help you? Because it's really the most valuable information you have. If you don't take this quiz, if you don't know your starting point, the costs it can be years of your life never attaining your dream, because you don't understand why it's showing up the way that it is for you. Everything about our external reality comes from what we're doing, the behaviors we have. And if we don't change this, if we don't recognize the behaviors that are keeping things the way they are, we cannot hope for them to change. So transformation is not about changing the rest of the world. It's changing the lens through which we see the world, the meaning we make out of it, thus who we're being, and the results that we get. So taking this quiz can save literally decades, because people can keep asking themselves and spending tons of money on program after program that could be great programs, but they don't understand their own wiring and what stops them, and so they just feel like nothing works, and it's actually just a tweak to their own wiring that they need to do.
Got it. I mean, you mentioned the kind of different types. There's 4 types. I know this. Of course, people are going to discover what their type is. But maybe you could share 4, or we can keep it open so they can discover about themselves. But maybe name one, because I know there's one that stands out, and it really resonates with a lot of people.
The seeker type is by far the most common of the 4. The seeker is a person who is absolutely committed to their personal development. They're the ones with a hard drive full of programs and a bookshelf full of books and notebooks and flyers and bags of swag from all the events they've gone to, right? And they got excited about all of this at some point, but then they didn't finish it. Because of how they're wired, they always are on the lookout for like the next thing, the easiest thing, the quicker thing, the thing that makes more sense, the thing that resonates with them more, or whatever, that fits into their lifestyle. However, so they don't stay with one thing long enough for any sort of rewiring to take place in their brain. So therefore, transformation cannot stick. It just can't, because the old wiring will always, until it dies off, it's going to be there. And so to kill it off, basically, you have to just keep sending the new information and dealing with what happens to you emotionally when the old information comes up.
Yeah, it's valuable stuff, guys, and we're going to cover a little bit on how to do that process. But as well, for the quiz, we're going to give you a specific link right at the end of the interview. No kind of catch, no anything, nothing to kind of, no hoops. So have a pen, have a piece of paper ready. We're going to give you that link right at the end. And there's a totally free assessment tool, right? Will be incredibly valuable in the right hands, as it was for me, many other people. Hundreds, thousands of people have taken it already. In fact, that's one of the trends I noticed with you, Bob, is a lot of kind of gurus I see, they kind of give you what they think you need, so you can kind of jump through these hoops and go through their programs, and go up to the higher programs and then walk on fire or whatever. I've noticed with you, you kind of you've got like back to back, like months, years of content, live streams that you do. Even today, you were doing a live stream on Instagram, totally free, but still valuable content that people charge for. Why did you kind of take this approach? Was it kind of purposeful? Was it kind of accidental, or just kind of your style?
I'm sure it was a migration, really. But first of all, I just enjoy being a channel for the message. Like, I literally enjoy going live and talking about this stuff and giving coaching and answering questions and the whole thing. It is not a burden for me or anything. Like, it's one of the joy. So like you said, between YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and various social stuff, I mean, I've got hours, days, months of content around, law of attraction, rewiring, personal transformation, all of that. And I think there's several strategies there. I mean, I want people to understand that I do have value to give and that I know what I'm talking about. If I just continually just tease and never deliver, then they just don't know. Plus, I like to create real relationships with people. I like to have the forum of being live so I can be me, Bob Doyle, real Bob Doyle, not just Bob Doyle from The Secret, so that people get to do that whole know, like, and trust me. I want them to know, to feel safe, that I'm going to actually help them, because not there's plenty of personal development people out there who are very, very popular that I would never go to an event. I would never do their stuff because it's just not a fit. I want people to feel like it's a fit for me. So, and also it's just that whole, if you believe the law of reciprocity, I mean, I'm putting out, good karma comes back, hopefully. Free stuff, more new people tend to find it. So, there's just basic strategy also that can be implemented by giving free content out. People want to share it and so on. So it's lots of layers, but mostly, honestly, it's just because it's in me to do. But I also know that, like we talked about before, that's all information, right? It's a lot of information. Whether or not people do anything with it, unless they engage me on another level, I have no control over that. I can try to make it as engaging and as inspiring and motivating as possible so that people do start to take action, do take the tips that they get from free advice. But the level of accountability and consistency that you need to actually make the rewiring process happen, and because of the nature of our brains and that we do tend to sabotage ourselves once we reach the limits of our wiring, I'm not worried about it. I know that if a person is really dedicated to change and they've watched what I say and they know that I can help them, then they will, engage me professionally. So it all just works out. It's a win-win-win for everybody.
True that. Yeah. I love that as well. Like, especially when I kind of do my stuff, my projects, I always kind of seek the win-win-win scenario. Win for you, win for the kind of customers, win for the viewers, just everybody kind of gains something from this, whether they choose to implement or not. In fact, one of the things that comes up is like, I'm trying to remember, is you said something like, you got to discover like who you want to be. You got to put in place who you want to be before putting what you want. And I'm probably butchering that, but it was something along those lines, if you remember.
You are close. But yeah, that's basically it. People come in, like when I was teaching law of attraction specifically, people would come in and it's all about what they want, right? The money, the house, the car, the relationship, the career, it's all about what they want. And they never stop to think about who they need to be to have those things. And I can almost guarantee that across the board, if you don't have those things currently, it is a result of who you are being. The action you're taking, the things you're saying, the meaning you're making, the ways you stop yourself, the things you don't follow through on, it's all a result of who you're being. And so if you want to change your results, then you have to change who you're being. But also, when you're creating goals and visions and dreams for yourself, wouldn't you rather those goals, dreams, and visions come from a more empowered version of you and not the one who is living in fear or worry or who feels stuck or insecure or has limiting beliefs? That person's going to have desires that are built from those feelings, and that's not, and it's going to put a layer of yuck into the whole thing. That's why we have this amazing ability to imagine who we'd like to be. We can model people. There's all sorts of ways we can get an idea of assessing the gap between who we're being now and who we need to be to get the things that we want, to bring in those results. But that, again, to do that now, it requires actually being it, not just knowing about it, but knowing what you want as that person. That's a much stronger why. It feels more pure. It feels more exciting. It feels more motivating. So yeah, it's absolutely important to know that. We've got, for example, I got 2 musicians who are going through this process right now, and both of them are dealing with 2 different things that are kind of, musically related, but both of them had to shift very significantly who they were being in the music conversation. One had a very limiting conversation around not being good enough, and can I keep up with these people? He heard voices from his past, people who had told him he wasn't good enough. He's got all these old stories that he would bring into every rehearsal. So it would, or he wouldn't practice, or he wouldn't do those things. And so there's this joy that he wants to express. There's some, and this, just fill in the blank for what it is inside you, right? That they're not expressing because of all that yuck. So I say, who do you need to be as a musician on that stage to feel the way you want, to get the experience that you want? What stories do you have to give up? What voices do you have to not hear? What new voices can you put in? And this was just to watch him go through this process over the course of the weeks, and realizing and catching himself and trying new things, to watch him go from dreading practice to being excited about going and playing with other people. I mean, it's a huge transformation for someone like that. I mean, if you can identify with having something inside you that you want to express, and for whatever reason conversations or stories are stopping you from doing that, then you know what it feels like. It just feels like, there's a part of you that's just dying. And so to be able to unleash that. And then the other guy I talked about before, Steve, he's got this huge reach of musicians, and he's sitting on a gold mine, but he had a mindset, about like not knowing what to do, or not, the value. There's just all kinds of stuff comes up for a person who's not wired for that kind of mindset. So instead of, for him, trying to determine what is that perfect version of him, his approach was to, well, since I don't really know what I don't know about that, what I can do is identify feelings and reactions that I'm having right now that I know are stopping me or taking me out of my power, or just bringing my mood down, catching those and changing those. And just in that process, even though this wasn't a business type of thing, this was a personal choice about personally reacting to things differently, that's when he then gained the confidence to be able to approach potential business partners, to basically be able to start leveraging this massive gold mine that he is sitting on. And to watch him, I've been working with him for a while, and most of the time I worked with him, it was law of attraction, release techniques, those types of things. We started this rewiring thing just 90 days ago, and most of this stuff is just happening here. By the way, he's one of the ones, he actually quit smoking using a process that we share in this program. And he's just one of the 2 people who have mentioned quitting smoking in this process, during this process as well.
Yeah, even just hearing those stories, like almost remind, like, these are like good people. They actually want to be something. They're not like lazy people who just kind of like need next productivity hack or something. Like, they want to do good. Yet there's like this kind of barrier that's kind of constantly holding them back for whatever reason. And the cost is literally a dream, a lifestyle that they can only just imagine, and they're kind of stuck in that imagining phase. And I mean, seeing some of the questions here, like especially law of attraction, I'm going to mention too. I know you kind of got your kind of side of things about this, scarcity abundance kind of thing. But let's just kind of read a few off. Amy, I'll read a few off and then we'll kind of jump into it. So Amy says, how do I best use law of attraction to manifest? Vlad Huginos, what I do if my spouse isn't supportive? That's a big one as well. Teresa, how will I know if this will work for me? A lot of relevant questions. I'm sure a lot of viewers have all of those questions, at least 2 of them. I know I had. So let's just kind of dive in, kind of tackle one at a time. See the law of attraction. Let's see, and use it to manifest. So she's asking, what's kind of the best way to do that? The kind of whole law of attraction aspect.
Yeah. And that is the perfect question for this conversation, because, having taught very passionately the law of attraction from every different angle for 20 years, there was a part of me that was like, am I really going to move away from this conversation to another one? Because I'm known for this. This is the one that brought me to the dance. What do I want to do here? But I am really committed to having people create the transformation that they want. Here's the great news about the approach that we're taking here is that the law of attraction absolutely is in full force and working automatically and effortlessly when you do it this way. Look, the typical approach to the law of attraction was, you create this vision for yourself, you feel as though you have it now and all of that, and then you take inspired action. That's a part that sometimes people just kind of forget about or know that they should take, but they're really good into getting into the feeling. Right? They got their vision board, they got all this other stuff, they're meditating, and they get into the feeling. But then as soon as they're done getting into the feeling or looking at their vision board, they go right back to their old wiring. And they wonder, why isn't this working? Well, it's because for the 95% of your day, and that's being generous, that you would spend even 5% in the other way, you're just running the old programs. You're just solidifying the old wiring. You're getting triggered by the same things but you're telling yourself in the background, but I'm working on this. I'm learning this law of attraction thing. But that is not enough, my friends, and that's why it shows up this way. People I'm so committed to the law of attraction for decades. They love it. They post their comment, their inspirational quotes. They've seen The Secret 200 times, but they're still not where they want to be. And it's because they're missing the very key piece. They're not being who they want to be able to create the results they want. They're talking about it. They're thinking about it. They're visualizing about it. But they're not being it. They're waiting for something to manifest, to attract something that will then magically make them be this. It just doesn't work that way. So I've always approached the law of attraction with as much logic and science as I possibly can. I am a full-blown believer in it. I know it is a thing. I understand the workings of it. I also know, however, that as enthusiastic as people can be about it, it slows the process down for a lot of people who just don't automatically get it. There's some people who just get it. It resonates with them, it's in alignment with their current belief system, and boom, 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 they do all the law of attraction-y things to manifest their life. But for the rest of the people who can't do that, make that leap, think it's magical thinking, that's always going to be a stop. So I'm just like, let's just bypass that, because when you rewire yourself and your way of being just actually normally happens and you naturally get into the feelings, you naturally have the emotions that you want, well, guess what? The law of attraction is naturally just doing its thing and you didn't have to obsess about it at all. So my approach to if the question is if the presupposition is I've been working with this for a while and it's not working, I invite you to stop obsessing about the law of attraction and get really clear on who you want to be and start learning how to start being that.
I was going to annoy a few people, especially the ones who've been doing it for a while, because I've noticed as well, like if you have been doing it for 10, 20 years, it's very hard to let go of that identity. That is you now, and you're not going to give it up because you realize you've basically wasted 10, 20 years of your life. Kind of a hard pill to swallow, right?
That's right.
And actually, you mentioned something because it kind of links to the second question that we got via email. So the guy says, I've been working on myself for nearly 20 years. Oof, how timely. I've tried so many different approaches to my own transformation, but I've always found myself getting frustrated. What if I'm just not cut out to succeed? Big, deep one.
Yeah. So I get that kind of, the other ways that shows up are like, well, I guess the universe doesn't want it for me, that kind of stuff. It's like that we basically just take away all responsibility. It's like the universe doesn't want it for me, whatever. Now, here's the thing about trying something for 20 years. That's a seeker, right? That's the type we just talked about. And every time they try a program and don't see it through to completion for whatever reasons, then they reinforce the wiring that they are seeking and not getting results. That who they are is a person who doesn't get results. They solidify that every time. I've tried this for 20 years. I get frustrated. They're saying I, and every time they say I, or I am, or I do, or I feel, or anything, they're creating more, they're solidifying that old wiring. And they're doing it because they're just trying to be honest and own their stuff. I get it, but that you have to change your conversation if you're going to change your results. So number one, you got to complete something, right? You have to choose an approach that you're going to take, find one that makes sense to you, that doesn't require all kinds of metaphysical beliefs, if that is a challenge for you, something that just says, yes, if I do this, I see how it will work, and then you just keep doing it. Again, alone, that is almost impossible. And it's because all you've got is this. You've got this wiring, these beliefs, this lens through it. And by the way, Remember, when you're looking through that lens, it's the truth. It's not an opinion. It's not a belief. It's the truth. And if something comes up that doesn't fit with that truth, it gets very uncomfortable, feels wrong, and so on. So when you start to try to change your conversation around, instead of I've been searching for 20 years and I'm frustrated, talk about how successful you are and how wonderful it feels to finally have had that breakthrough. Now, every part of your body is going to scream, what are you talking about? That's not true, right? It's not true right now, but neither is the fact that you can't transform, but you've been telling yourself that for 20 years. You've made that a truth, but it's not. You just are wired that way to see it. So you can in fact change this, but you just have to start telling yourself different things. You got to give up those stories.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of one of the things you said, like the people, like they've wired themselves, so now it's like they have to learn how to unwire themselves. But they already have the things because they've been literally wiring themselves, but without knowing it. So literally just having the right tools and the right steps, so they can unlearn that behavior pretty much. So making more sense to me. Even though I've seen the curriculum, I've been part of it, it's obviously making more sense because I'm still internalizing this stuff. It's a work in progress. Like there's no kind of end point, destination. As soon as you kind of fix one thing, there's like another thing, which is just life, I guess, and the kind of fun part of life. But seeing with this kind of third question, where we're at, I'm one of those people who's absolutely committed to my transformation, but every time I make any progress, something seems to happen in my life to stop me. Sometimes it's my family; they kind of resist my new direction. Not surprised. But other times it's just situations out of my control that stop me. How can I stop all this sabotage? Is there even a way?
Is there even a way? Yes, there's definitely a way. Now, see, here's the thing. First of all, that question is very clearly coming from this person now, right? You just told me all of your challenges. I got these people. I did sabotage, whatever. That person is not going to achieve what they want. They're not going to take the action. They're not going to make the meaning. They're not going to make the relationships. They're not going to attract what they want with that story. So what they need, first of all, is to get really clear on who they do want to be, right? And a way that you can do that is just to look through go through your day. This is part of our process. As you go through your day and you notice, when you have a reaction, an autopilot reaction, and either in the moment or later when you have some time, you think about, well, how would I have liked to have behaved in that moment? And you just get to imagine it, and you get to play it and play it and play it in your head over and over and over again until you can really feel empowered, at least in your imagination, to handle that situation differently. And then in the real world situation, when that comes up, you will have rehearsed it already. It's in your wiring. Now all you have to do is embody it. Now when you do that and all that let's talk about the other people. Okay, let's talk about the impact of the other people, because this is a big one for a lot of people, especially if it's family. But it doesn't have to be family. It can be any sort of a peer group, your friends, anybody who you have been with for a while and there's any kind of emotional connection to. When you take on personal transformation of any kind and it's significant and it requires you to be somebody else, then there is no guarantee at all that these other people are going to follow you on that journey or be on board. Any reaction that other people give you is all about them, and that's the most important thing you can learn. Because a person who truly supports you and is out for your own good, they'll just watch you and support you in wherever you go. If they have their own insecurities, their own fears, their own worries, they will project them upon you and say that you shouldn't do this, or are you sure, or in some other way give you pause. And if you're not aware of that, if you're not aware that, number one, this is about them, then you can easily make it about yourself and say, oh yeah, that's true. And they know, they're my parents. They've known me my whole life. They probably know me better than me. And then they make that choice. But that is a wired decision. It's just a wired decision. Just like any other thing, a circumstance comes up that appears to block your progress. It is a decision in that moment to make that mean that you're not supposed to move forward, that you've been blocked again. Another way you could interpret that is, hey, look, feedback that I can now use and implement so that this doesn't happen again, and I can get a little further next time, and then a little further next time, and a little further next time. Two different people look at the same situation, make two different choices, have completely different results. The one person said, I guess this means this isn't going to work for me, and the other one person says, thank you for this feedback. Now I know how to change this, just like Edison with a light bulb and everybody who invented everything. This is how things get get done. It is hacking away, making feedback, making adjustments, moving forward, knowing the end goal, knowing why you need to get there. What is the strong emotional pull? What is your why? All of this stuff is super important. When you have that, when you're really clear on why you must do this and why this is non-negotiable, like really know, then those external forces become less important.
Yeah, actually, the first person you're talking about sounds a lot like the P-type. I don't want to say what the name is because they can discover for themselves, but it sounds like a whole lot like that P-type, where they don't choose to take action in life because of someone else, and they rather value someone else's opinions and beliefs rather than their own, and analyze their own beliefs. So if you kind of fall in that category, boy, there's a nice little tip for you. Kind of wait in once you take the assessment. And well, I mean, there's one more question. I kind of want to go through this because I don't know how long we've been going. We only kind of schedule out an hour. Bob's time. He's a busy guy. But I know this question I want to cover because it's kind of related to you specifically. It's about addictions. There's many addictions. You mentioned smoking. There's obviously gambling. There's sex. There's video games. There's everything. Food. But this one's mainly about alcohol, which I know, Bob, that's something linked to your personal story. It says, I hope this is okay to ask, but being fully honest, I know I've had an issue with letting alcohol get in the way of my progress. It seems like nothing I try works because in one way or the other, the alcohol thing derails me. I know I need to get this under control, but I just haven't been able to. Any advice for someone in that situation?
So I was in that situation, as Vitaly referenced. In 2016, I hit a point with my own alcohol consumption that was like, I realized this is costing me basically everything. I was getting through the day. I was getting through my life. I was paying, I was existing, but I definitely wasn't thriving, and I sure as hell was not happy. And I was drinking just every day and, functioning. I was just one of those people. Like, no one from the outside would have ever said anything, known anything. It was just my thing. But I knew that I knew this wasn't right. It didn't feel good and so on. So in this morning, in January of 2016, I sat down and just sort of impromptu kind of created my own process just for me getting my own thoughts together about like, what do I need to do to change my life? It wasn't even about, I'm going to quit drinking. That isn't why I sat down. I just sat down and said, things aren't right. And I created this process that I later called the click because of the click it had in my head, which is a part of what I include with anybody who works with me now. That was in 45 minutes, I was able to process my way out of drinking, a lifetime basically since age 16 of drinking, because I was able to make a decision. Because through this process, I was able to see that there was no way that I could have, like in the process, you become very clear on what's important to you. And what if you're not clear on your vision, this will help you sculpt it just by going through the exercise. But what I realized is that I will never have this if alcohol is in my life. I can rationalize it, which I'd been doing for years. I could say I have it under control. I could say anything, but I was clear. I can't. There's no way this can coexist with the future that I want. And there's other pieces of it that make that land even harder and all of that. So it just created this click. Now, I know that if you've ever struggled with drinking, if you've tried to quit or whatever, and you've tried various processes and you have not had success, then what I'm saying could seem like too good to be true or whatever. I'm only inviting you to try it. But I can tell you that even currently right now, in our program, someone has quit drinking now. She's on like week 3 or whatever. We've had a person quit smoking. Now she's been cigarette free for a month. And then again, the eating behaviors have changed for people, so they're sticking to their diets, they're losing weight. We've got just so much stuff just because this one little process. But it is true that if you don't get a handle on it, then you probably will not ever get to where you want to go, especially when you know inside, like your wiring is that this is stopping you, you should change this. And so there's a little bit of beating yourself up that's going on constantly. And it's those low grade conversations that are going on just below the surface that you never talk about, really don't acknowledge, but they're there all the time. Like, I'm not worthy of quitting drinking. I don't deserve to be alcohol free because obviously I'm doing. So when you can eliminate all of those conversations, then it's a lot easier to imagine welcoming in other good things in your life when you know that you value yourself enough to accept them.
Yeah, power stuff. You just think about letting the viewers know that it's not just about alcohol. It's like it's other forms of addiction. So these kind of stories mentioned, his own story, it doesn't just cover alcohol and smoking. It covers a wide range of habits or negative behaviors.
It's behaviors. Yeah.
And that it kind of alleviates.
And that can include self-talk. It could include all kinds of things, sleeping too late. It can any behavior. Like part of the process is identifying the behaviors, the various categories of behavior that you know on some level you could probably be better at. So it's not just addictive type behaviors. It's all kinds of behaviors.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, this is amazing information. Guys, hopefully give some likes, some comments, some shares if this has resonated with you, or you think maybe a friend or a family member can benefit from this. At least tag them in the comments. That's the least you can do. Maybe they'll watch it, maybe they won't. They make an excuse, but at least worth a try, right? And kind of, we want to go to the Q&A, so I'm just kind of seeing some of the questions, and we'll jump into them. But first of all, I'm going to be mindful of Bob's time, of course, and two, we don't want to overwhelm you guys. We can go on forever and keep talking, sharing stories, which we will. But first, I want to do a quick, very, very quick kind of sponsorship, kind of little commercial for you guys to just see if this program is for you. Okay, it's not for everyone, of course, but even if you're open to the idea, even just a little bit curious, stick around. It's not going to cost you like much time. It'll be 5 minutes, just go through it. And then if you have your questions, we'll go to the Q&A. So I'm going to wrap this up for much questions as possible. But first, just a quick 5 minutes on what this program is about and how you can access that quiz tool that we mentioned, the assessment tool that you can use today, by the way, totally free. So I'm going to go through the bonuses. Like I mentioned, there's like $2,085 in bonuses. But Bob, first kind of start off, I guess it'll be easy to kind of give a context, is what is the kind of theme of this program? What is the kind of main promise and how is it kind of structured?
So we call it the Boundless Living Challenge, and the challenge is to learn how to master the skill of rewiring your brain. So we acknowledge, of course, that brain rewiring takes a lot of time. That's why it's uncomfortable. It's how we learn anything. What we're saying, though, is that becoming aware of your autopilot wiring so that then you can change it and become the crafter, your own sort of brain electrician, that is the major skill, because once you do that, you can craft anything. You can decide any sort of future. You can decide any kind of way of being and take on that behavior once you have this skill set. So it's really just we're installing a skill set that we were all born with, that we've completely forgotten about, that allows us truly to create and craft our entire experience of life.
Yeah, it's a incredible little process and an experience. So we talked about it. It is an experience when you go through the different levels and kind of, if anyone knows about gamification, which is very, very powerful, so you can to better integrate this into your lifestyle, make it a normal part. So even if you don't have much time, it is designed in a way to fit in your day without kind of disrupting your whole schedule. Okay, I'll let Bob kind of talk a little bit about that. But a lot of people I've seen have tried to knock this off. A lot of gurus out there and stuff, they've charging $997, like $497. I mean, even one of the kind of other coaches in this space that can be compared to you, Bob, she's charging like $500 a month for this stuff. So charge people an arm and a leg for this kind of stuff. But you're offering so much more, so much more. Tell me a little bit about it. Like, what can someone expect once they kind of jump in? Just kind of briefly, first starting point.
Well, basically, yeah, you're right. The idea is for this to be very digestible because, as we talked about before, information overload is a huge problem. And like my first Wealth Beyond Reason, it was my Law of Attraction program. I thought I was doing the world a favor because I had all this information, hours of content, pages and pages of stuff, and I realized it's just overwhelmed. No one can possibly get through all that. So what we do is, but yet we still have to remain consistent if we're undergoing a rewiring effort. And so there is a day-by-day specific action plan. It's something that people do every day, and every day they have a new distinction to learn. But these distinctions, these little videos, they're like 3-4 minutes. So they start their day with a process that between watching a video and a sort of a little visualization exercise maybe takes 10 minutes, and then you do another maybe 10 at the end of the day. So it's not like a very time-consuming thing, and it's great. There's the whole community aspect, but the whole idea is that they do know what to do every day, and that again, with the law of attraction, it's like, what should I be doing? How long should I be doing this? Like, we just make it super, super clear.
Got it. One of the things I've got to mention that you actually got this kind of I forgot what you call it, like the brain bender guarantee. Something silly, because you literally guarantee people's success if they stick through the process. These steps have been specifically designed to give you what you need, not just fluffed up to make it 50 minutes or whatever. Like exactly what you need for that day, and it's logically designed. Bob spent a lot of time putting this together. But what is this kind of? Yeah. Is it brain bender?
Well, I'm calling it because most people say it's a no-brainer guarantee, but this is all about the brain. So I don't want to no-brain it, because we're going to bend the brain a little bit. We're going to bend the brain, but if we don't successfully bend your brain, right? I feel so confident about this because, again, 20 years of doing it one way and getting results, but at the way that I did and with the ratio that I did, and then now doing it this way for just like maybe 90 days or so, or a little bit longer with a really focused group, and I'm seeing things that happen so fast. It's like I'm very, very confident that this will work for you if you come in here with the intention to do it. And so if you come in here and you spend a week even going through this and it's not working for you, if you don't feel like something's changing, if you're not catching yourself, then what am I going to do with your money? I mean, I want you to be happy with your experience. So we will absolutely refund you if you feel like this isn't a fit for you. But we do make it as fun and as engaging as possible, because we know that if in fact you want these results, that we can get them for you this way in ways that others can't, because we're working directly with the source of all the issues, your brain, and we're giving it new information. So feel really super good about saying, yeah, just take a look at it, really try it on, and if it doesn't work for you, then we'll give you your money back, no problem.
Yeah, got it. I mean, that's the program itself, and of course we mentioned bonuses, which are included part of it, because the most disappointing thing is like when people, they get kind of warm and fuzzy now, they listen to this to get kind of inspired, maybe see a few quotes and stuff, but they don't take action because old habits die hard. People just go back, they wake up the next day and just boom, back into their autopilot behaviors, like you mentioned. So Bob literally has these bonuses in place to make sure you succeed. Okay, that is the core program. I don't know if you mentioned that it's the 45-day challenge. It's like a 45-day kind of journey, if you will, experience. But some of the bonuses I'm seeing, so we've got a day. I'm just going to go through the list, and then, Bob, you can talk about the main ones, because I do want to get to the Q&A, because I know some of these guys are waiting. You've got a day-by-day specific action plan, rewiring toolbox, release techniques, the Facebook community support, which is huge, meditation bundle, weekly live Q&A sessions, right? Powerful stuff. The click, mentioned a little bit about this, gifts from the experts, and personal coaching from Bob Doyle. So the kind of main ones, which ones are you kind of seeing people just loving it so much? I know all of them are designed to be in place. They're not just little bonus PDFs you throw at them and expect them to read it. But what are some of the main ones that people are just loving? Well,
we just mentioned the click, so people are giving up smoking and alcohol and changing their diet and changing their lives. So that's a huge one. I mean, and I knew it would be. And it sets a great foundation for a successful transformation from that point on, when they can eliminate some of those more powerful behaviors. I mean, there's so many. If you just scan the Facebook community, and you'll just see click, 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 click all over the place from people having that kind of results. And the Facebook community, again, it may just seem like a throwaway. It is not. It is one of the most powerful places where transformation takes place because of the support. We talked about the influence of other people, and how if you get those negative influence, if you don't have something to counteract that, you're just going to stop, most likely, because your life just gets too uncomfortable. But when you can come to a place where you're being celebrated by people who are going through the same process as you, it makes a huge difference. It's all about wins. The whole challenge is built around wins and points and giving your brain the rewards that it needs to be able to continue. This is a very unique approach to programs. This isn't just some self-study thing, where they just go in and they go through at their own pace or whatever, and you get points for almost every action you take, and your brain loves that. It helps to rewire, it helps the rewiring process. So you're learning new things, you're motivated to click through, you're going click, 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 points. You get access to new content, entirely different programs by reaching certain levels of points. So there's all sorts of incentive to keep going, because that's what we're here for. We're about completion, right? So the community aspect and the accountability that comes with that, and the click. Now, we talked about the gifts from the experts. Now, these are people who I have worked with in the industry for years, like a couple of decades with some of them. These are people I know and trust, and who have excellent tools to help in the rewiring process. And the nature of most of these tools are called, and some of you may have heard of this if you've been in the law of attraction conversation for a while, but release techniques. What release techniques allow you to do is to, when you have that emotional reaction, that autopilot emotional reaction that is there because of your wiring, and all this chemistry comes up, and you feel taken over, right? And it's hard to make a new decision. It's hard to make choices when you're in that state. Release techniques allow you in the moment, depending on the type of technique you're using and what the upset is, the nature of the upset, allows you to neutralize that upset. So that even though you're not changing the situation, the fact, what's happening, you're changing your response to it so that you can now make other more empowering choices. This is huge because, I mean, how many times, if you think about how much time in your life is wasted on upset, inappropriate upset, worry that's going on far too long, anger about something over which you have no control, old hostilities and grudges that you're holding, all of that emotional stuff in there messing up with the wire. It is absolutely making your manifesting machine not work correctly. But these tools allow you to untangle all that. So think about the freedom. And also, by the way, these tools are great for behavior modification like the click is, addictive type things, all kinds of benefits from releasing negative emotional energy. But to me, it's like, and these have always been a part of my law of attraction work, because you just can't expect to progress if you don't deal with that stuff, if you don't deal with all those strong emotional autopilot reactions. Because remember, there's so much biology in this. When you have those emotional reactions and that chemistry comes through and those hormones are coursing through your body, you feel very out of control. So to have any kind of a tool that brings you back in control, especially in a very upsetting situation, it's huge, and it can absolutely change your life in the moment. Because think about these pivotal moments that come up in your life when you go, boy, if I had only reacted this way instead of that way. Yeah. If I had only done this, if I had only kept a cool head, if I had only not been reactionary, if I had only just breathed for a minute, how different life could be. And so these are the types of tool sets that we're giving with a lot of these bonuses. And I will mention the coaching part, the Q&A that we do live weekly, and then coaching that I give throughout the group. Now, again, I've been coaching for a long time, and I would be considered what's called like a high-end coach in terms of if you were working with me, right? The investment in personal coaching is above the average of the industry because of the time I've been doing it and the techniques and the results and all of those things. However, in the challenge, you have access to me every week live in these Q&As. You can ask me any question. You can get coaching. It's all part of it. And also throughout the week when you're posting in the group, I'm in there. I'm responding. It's not one of my coaches. It's not a representative. It's me in there answering your questions. So you are getting coaching, and I'm not holding back. It's not like, well, I'll give you my $10 coaching. I'm going to give you what you need to transform. So bang for the buck in terms of the tools and all of that, and the level of coaching that you're getting from the top level person in the organization and not somewhere else. It's just it's very hard to find that, and you'll never find it at the price point that we're doing.
There's so many cool things, so many huge points mentioned. Even the whole kind of triggering thing, and like even you type on YouTube, like people getting triggered, like it's funny, but then it's kind of sad at the same time. With it, like they don't even know how to handle it, or kind of if it happens again, they don't know how to fix it, or kind of keep their emotions under control. Even the things about anger, that was a massive one for me. Or I get angry, and even like I'll waste a whole day because of a text I saw from a friend, and they'll make me angry, and I couldn't literally work for a day. Huge. Imagine if you could kind of fix that little thing there. Just the gain you get in your life, just that one little piece, not to mention all the other pieces.
Let me just mention it, because talking example of that, like with all the strides I've made in my life and career and all of the things I know, I still had some stuff up to 2 years ago that was just that constant trigger, could not get rid of it, wasn't willing to let go of the story because it was so true, it was so right, and I was holding on to it. But when I started this rewiring approach, it became so clear how destructive that was, and how no matter how right I felt about holding on to it, that if I did hold on to it, there's no possible way for me to be who I want to be in the world. I had to let it go. And it was the most freeing thing, because it was the difference between trying to let it go and knowing that I absolutely had to, because it didn't serve me at all. And that is the kind of distinction. That's the sort of aha moment that you can get when you're looking at this transformation process through the rewiring lens, more than just sort of the metaphysical woo-woo lens. There's so much weird interpretation going on out there with law of attraction, and what does it mean, and what are the signs and all that. And the science is highly debatable by a lot of people, but neuroplasticity, our ability to change our brain and what changes it, it's just plain agreed upon. And so we don't have to deal with any sort of type of belief systems either.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much more we can cover. So we're going to just give a quick link for the guys who want to check out the quiz. That was the original gift, a little bonus, totally free. Check it out. You can go to tptquiz.com/FB. That's tptquiz.com/FB. You can check it out. The early bird tickets are not going to be $997, $497. They're at a very low price of $197. Okay, and that's all going to be. You can see that on the page and stuff. You can see what to expect. You can see the kind of gamification members area. Tons more case studies. Literally flooded. There's like rows and rows and rows of success stories. So feel free to kind of check them out. But I just want to kind of jump into this Q&A because there's a few more questions, which are kind of there's about 10 more questions. So we'll use them to wrap the things up. And guys, open this in your tab, let it kind of load while we kind of dive into these questions. So just quickly, Dietrich, is meditation a part of your program and or approach? I've always struggled with meditation and I dread the idea of more frustration in that area with a new program.
Yes, meditation is definitely a part of this program. It's one of the greatest rewiring tools we have at our disposal, but there's also so many misconceptions about what it's supposed to be and how long it's supposed to be and how quiet your brain should be and the thoughts and all those things. And so we get in our head and then we create wiring around how we can't meditate. And so it becomes true for us. So the meditations, we have several different types of meditations in the Balanced Living Challenge. We have more longer form meditations for visualizing what you want or tapping into your sense of passion or sleeping and that type of thing, wealth consciousness, those longer form type of meditations. But part of our sort of daily toolbox, and I mentioned it briefly, I alluded to it before, but we take 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening to do sort of visualization meditation to look at the day ahead and sort of plan for what might be coming up. Who do we want to be? We rehearse it. We create this sort of wiring in our brain. And then at the end, we're sort of looking back at the day and go, where did we maybe not, step into who we wanted to be as much as we wanted to, and then we rehearse that and all that. It's all about training. But meditation absolutely is a part of it. And everything's guided and it's super simple. So, and we really just want you to just let yourself off the hook for what you think it's supposed to be and just allow it to be what it is.
Yeah, keep it in mind, basically. There's Haji. The problem I have with programs like this is that most of the time the teacher you think you're paying for is hardly present during the actual program. It makes me feel like they can't be bothered. And I know it impacts how I go through these programs. How involved is Bob with the program? I know you mentioned a little bit, but
yeah,
maybe just recap.
Yeah, I did. So like I said, that's always been, as I mentioned earlier, I really love doing this. This is the part when live streaming came and I could actually interact with people live in this work. It changed the whole thing, because for years it was just one way. I'm putting out videos, I'm putting out programs, and the occasional, live event or something like that when I would actually get to interact. But with live, it's just like, I love doing it, so I'm there a lot. And I enjoy facilitating transformation. It's just one of those things I like to do. So as I said before, being in the group and typing answers, and if I feel so inspired, I might post a little bonus video. If I feel like, wow, there a lot of people are talking about this, let me throw some bonus content in there. It's just outside of the daily stuff that they already get and outside of the live Q&A. So there is a ton of Bob in the program, and that's because I like being there.
Got it. So hopefully I answered that question. So another one is, you talked about issues with family and friends, and that definitely applies to me. Don't get me started. I like the idea of a support system, but I'm not even sure where I'd start.
Well, so that's why we have the challenge. It's the first thing one of the very first things you do is to get into the community, talk about what you're looking for. It's really, and we know that for some people that is a stretch just to share at all in a group, and that's part of the rewire, because we across the board, we want people to play a bigger game. Across the board, we want people to be able to shine and show themselves for who they are. And when they do that, the acceptance from people who see authenticity is great. And that's why, with the group, you just get involved with the group. And to the extent that you are vulnerable, I mean, we're not asking you to give away, ridiculously sensitive information, but as vulnerable as you're willing to be, because it's a safe private group. Nobody ever sees anything outside of the group. You can't share anything outside the group. It's all very private, and we really pride ourselves in creating a very, very, very safe space. And I've been doing this for years, and I've never had a problem. So, getting that kind of support is just as simple as coming in to the program and asking for it.
Nice. I see these two questions which are kind of linked together. The first one is, how long does this rewiring process take? And the second one from Carl Justin is, why is your program 45 days? Is there some reason or just a random number? Hope you don't mind my asking, but I'm trying to figure out why you decided on 45 days.
So if you do any research on neuroplasticity and how long it takes for the brain to actually change, you're going to see a range. Like you hear, 21 days to form a habit, 45 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever. 45 days is right in the middle, and enough people say that's good. And I can tell you from just experience and seeing it happen that it's plenty of time to get people to change their behavior on an ongoing and consistent basis. So 45 days from at least, several sources out there says that now, this is the key, consistent. Not that you're a member of a program for 45 days, no. That every day you are doing what you need to do to create the rewiring process. Every day you're doing it. Because if you skip, your wiring says, you skipped, so you'll get back to it. And it's just like going to the gym. It's the same kind of thing. It's good for you, but you talk yourself out of it. And then the one time you skip, then you can rationalize again. And the next thing you know, you're not doing it. Now, again, we do everything we can to make it fun, and you want to get in there. You want to earn the points. You want to, fun is a huge part of this process.
Yeah, we notice that brings someone up with the whole support system in general. Most programs, if you don't log in for 10 days or even 5 days, you get nothing. The guys kind of take your money, cool, on to the next customer. In this case, you actually get login notifications to your email, to your via SMS, because Bob actually wants you to succeed with the program. It's not just a thing where you buy, invest, and then Bob hopes to never ever hear from you ever again, because you'd be taking up his time. It's totally different experience, especially with the Facebook group. So if you want to say a little bit on that.
Well, it's true. One of the things, again, like you said, that the completion rate for personal development programs is like 7%. That's the completion rate. And it's because people just do not, they don't have the incentive, the motivation to finish, because once they hit the limits of their wiring, whatever personality type they are, whatever triggers them, whether it's taking too long or they're bored or whatever the trigger is, they stop. Right? And then you're right. Most program developers, the people, they don't know where the people are in the process. They don't know that they stopped. They don't know that there's a problem. They just don't know. And the person just fades off into the distance. But we're very proud of the technology that we use to keep up with people. And if somebody doesn't log in for a couple of days, they get a notification that's personalized to them and say, hey, Mary, I noticed that you haven't logged in a couple of days. Is everything okay? Can we help you get back on track? That kind of stuff. And just that one thing can make a huge difference in how a person feels taken care of and acknowledged, especially if they have stories about not being seen or heard, which, by the way, is freaking huge. So the fact that the system itself, that the program itself automatically acknowledges people and gives them that sort of, boost that they need so that they stay in the program and realize the results is huge. It's revolutionary.
Yeah, it is incredible technology. Like, no one else is using it. This is actually like very, very powerful tools. Very, very new to this kind of marketplace. But Gina actually got some relevant questions to this. I'm a person who likes structure. Good. I like to know what I'm doing, understand why I'm doing it. A lot of these programs kind of have us figure stuff out on our own, and sometimes important things are missed. So kind of tied into this, but not sure if I want to mention a few things, but I think we covered quite a few points on mentioning things aren't missed. Yeah, well, so like I said, I understand that with the law of attraction conversation, there were a lot of blanks to be filled in, a lot of interpretation, a lot of area, for what does this really mean? What are they saying here? And, all of that. This, I feel, is just much, much clearer. And when you understand how the brain changes, then you'll understand why this process will work. I mean, that's the idea. This is not an act of faith here.
This should not be construed as, well, we'll see if this works, because I can tell you for sure that if you're a human being, your brain will change if you give it new information. The question is not will it work, will you? Will you do it? Will you show up every day? And if I tell you exactly what to do, if I give you a process to do every day, will you do it? And if you will, then you'll get the results. So I like to know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I don't like taking big blind leaps of faith. That's part of my big law of attraction story 20 years ago. It was like I wanted to believe it. But I just, I grew up as a skeptical little kid when my mom was a teacher and very analytical. It's like, I love the idea, but where's the science? So I got what I needed in terms of the science to say, got it, it's a thing, launched a career of teaching it, right? But now it's a different level. It's just a different level of like combining all of these things I know into the next logical progression so that people can actually transform quicker.
Yeah, I mean, the system works, no doubt. There's even like a little clip that you've recorded on like the next page. So when you go to tbtquiz.com/FB, you can check out the assessment tool and you can see all the bits and pieces. Okay, least you can do is check it out. Okay, if it's not for you, it didn't cost you anything, right? Totally free stuff. So now there's a few more questions. See, there's like 3 more questions, I believe. We'll just kind of wrap it up, I guess.
Okay.
Nerva, I know this isn't a law of attraction program, but have you totally abandoned it?
So I haven't abandoned it because, like I said, it was a life changer for me, and I know it's a thing. I mean, it's not a belief. To me, it's as obvious as anything else. But for me to be able to get it to be that obvious, that level of obvious to the average person with the average amount of wiring that they've received culturally and through their, it just is taking longer than it needs to. Because we're trying to get people to buy in to the law of attraction, which is just the first step. Because ultimately, if you transform your life, it's because your brain changed. Now, whether you use law of attraction techniques to do that or some other technique, it doesn't matter. So if the law of attraction technique is slowing you down for whatever reasons, whether it's a belief thing or lack of clarity or you're stuck in the woo-woo part of it or whatever, you don't need to have that to change your brain. It's just not the tool that is working for you right now. So try this way direct approach, which doesn't have any woo-woo, no belief system. It's just do this and your brain will change. And then watch how the law of attraction starts to work effortlessly for you.
Got it. So let's see. Anastasia, this all sounds great, but I know myself, I tend to lose steam and lose interest in programs. I know you can't guarantee that I'll stay interested, but is there anything in your program that addresses people like me? So again, probably brief recap on this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're rewards. We do so much celebration for every little thing you do, like just even downloading a meditation, you get points for it, right? Making an entry in your journal, you get points for it. Sharing your entry, sharing your distinctions in the group, you get points for it. And every time you get points, you get a little sound, sometimes you get a little animation, but then you also you can earn more days in the program, you can earn other programs, all sorts of incentives. So yes, and we're always working on new ways. The great thing about the system is as we come up with new ideas for fun things to do, we can add them in, and it's just always, it's this dynamic experience, and we're always adding new content, new distinctions, new tools, whatever we feel is most important to get you where you want to go.
Perfect. So hopefully that wraps it up for a lot of people. And there's kind of one last but not least, Tina Gunner. This is actually a important one, actually, because you mentioned visualization, stuff like that, but how is this any different from affirmations? Aren't you basically just talking about positive self-talk?
We definitely are talking about positive self-talk moved into action on a consistent basis that makes that self-talk true. So affirmations are obviously they're a statement of what you want. It's a very important thing. So number one, we want to make sure that your affirmations are being written from that future you, not the one here, right? So these are filled with empowerment and so on. They're truly indicative of what you want your life to be, then not about just changing and fixing problems. So that's one thing that we want to make sure if you're using affirmations. You want to be very, very clear on the reactions and the responses that come up to you when you're using affirmations, and have tools to use when the emotional responses don't feel good. So that's why we have all those release techniques in our program. So yeah, it's a lot of telling yourself new things. You're creating a whole new vision. Your vision for yourself is basically an affirmation that you're telling yourself all day. However, It's combined with what you need to combine it with to actually create the change in your brain, in your physiology, in your way of being, so that the world can actually respond to you, and that's not just some thought that you have in your head.
Yeah. Noted. You mentioned like transformation. Like people think it's just like, oh, we begin transformation, just like go up and up and up, and like there's this constantly upward trend. Like no, you're gonna have little bumps and like little down spikes, and it is gonna be unpleasant and uncomfortable because you are transforming. You are getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. So it's just part of the process, and you've got the right tools to kind of keep you on the path, and the group accountability, which is as Bob mentioned, very, very powerful. So guys, one last link. Maybe Bob wants to wrap something up, but tptquiz.com/FB. You should check it out. You can take the quiz and obviously learn more about the program after you've got your action step. So when you get your type, you actually see your result. Bob gives you the action step that you can implement totally free for yourself. And if the program looks something for you, you can check that out too. Even kind of, as I say, when you buy a house, you kind of go in the inside, you check out the inside. You don't just buy a house by looking on the outside. So this is an invitation. Check out the inside, check it out if it's for you. If not, no problem, okay? At least you made the decision and took at least some valuable action, okay, to see where you're at and see what we can do about it. So Bob, I don't know if there's anything else you maybe want to kind of just quickly wrap up, recap maybe.
Yeah. Two things on what you just said. First of all, the whole issue of discomfort. My invitation, as I said earlier, is to celebrate the discomfort, because it means that you're about to grow. The discomfort means that you've reached the limits of your wiring. You know that this is going to keep, if you stay here, you're going to stay where you are, because your behavior is not going to change. You're always going to get the same results. No weird magic's going to happen. But if you change who you're being, you will get different results. And to your second point, this is one of those things where your autopilot reaction, it's going to be very easy to judge and assess what this might be. Because especially if you're a seeker and you've done a million other things. So your brain is going to automatically try to categorize this with, how is this like the other things that I've tried? And how can I say this isn't going to work? Like my brain wants to it's going to be easier for me to say no to something, because then I don't have to take anything on. So first of all, just noticing that wiring can be huge, because how many other times does that stop you in your life? When you have an opportunity and your brain starts to say, why can't I do this, rather than why can I do this and what could be possible. But this is a transformation exercise. This is about rewiring your brain. There is no way for you to know what this is going to feel like and what the experience is going to be, or how, or if it's going to work for you without actually trying it. That's why we have the guarantee. So you come in and you try it. There's literally no way to assess it from the outside and go, well, maybe, I guess, and to know what it's going to feel like. So we say, come on in and just do it. Do it for a week, try the process every day for a week, and you'll see exactly whether or not it's going to work for you or not. That is the way to try something like this. It's not the normal paradigm. We normally say we're going to buy this thing, and if it doesn't work, or whatever it is, but we want you to come in and give it a good try, but we want you to have some skin in the game too. So you make the investment, it's not much, but you put the investment in, and now you give it a try, and if it's not work for you, you lose nothing. You're going to gain some information. In a week, you're going to get tool sets. You're going to get tools that you can use for the rest of your life, even if you didn't finish it.
Perfect. So, that rounds up the questions. Guys, if you have any more questions, put them below, because it's probably we're going to put this on social media, kind of Facebook, YouTube. So the comments will come up, and Bob will definitely go in and reply back to you. There's really going to be proof. There's proof of the program. You're getting this. Literally, this is already a taster course of what you can expect. And this happens weekly, except it won't be me just talk to Bob. It'll be multiple people, multiple seats on a Zoom call, and you can discuss things, keep you accountable. Even things, I've personally felt it's like a little bit healing to hear someone else's story, because I relate to it. I'm like, oh, I wasn't even aware of that, yet I do have this issue. So things you're not even aware of, when other people bring them up, that kind of brings it up in yourself. Hence why it has been designed this way. Okay? It's specifically designed to guarantee your success. Bob, thanks for your time. Hopefully the viewers, you enjoy this. Again, one last time, tptquiz.com/FB, and we'll see you there. Hopefully I'll see you inside. But guess we'll wrap it up. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you very, very soon. Take care.
Thanks very much.